Picture this. You're standing in line, the smell of roasted beans wrapping around you promising warmth and energy. That cup feels like comfort in your hands. But behind the steam, there are secrets most drinkers never hear. Today, we're counting down 7 of them, and secret number 1 is the most dangerous of all. Coming in at number 7, we've got the so-called fresh roast. The shiny bag on the shelf that screams "just roasted" may have been sitting in a warehouse longer than your winter coat. The industry wants you to believe you're getting beans straight from the roaster. In truth, many of them are old stock, stored for months before they ever touch your grinder. Fresh roast? Or just old stock with a sticker? Coffee marketers use words like artisan, craft, or farm fresh to paint a picture. But here's the ugly side. Roasted beans lose up to 70% of their aroma in only 8 days. 8. By the 2-week mark, the flavor oils start to break down. By 6 months, you're brewing a cup that tastes more like cardboard than coffee. Yet grocery shelves are stacked with bags that left the roaster half a year ago. Some beans travel farther than you did last year, stored in shipping containers for weeks at sea, then stacked in distribution centers for more weeks, then trucked to supermarkets. By the time you open the bag, that fresh roast may have seen more airports than you. You won't believe what's lurking inside. Open one of those bags and your nose knows the truth. Instead of a bold, nutty aroma, you get a flat, papery scent, sometimes even sour. The oils on the beans turn sticky and rancid, leaving a greasy film on your fingers. Pour them into a grinder, and the dust clings like damp flour. Seniors on blood pressure or heart meds feel this more than most. Oxidized oils can irritate digestion, worsen reflux, and trigger stomach upset. That morning comfort can leave you bloated or queasy. But here's the kicker. Staff forums have spilled the beans, literally. Workers admit fresh date stickers get slapped on older batches to make them look new. A roast from December can wear a bright Best by March label and no one blinks. Shoppers think they're scoring a recent roast, but it's smoke and mirrors. One ex-line worker even joked online, "We called it perfume coffee. It smelled like cardboard sprayed with vanilla." Think your grinder can save the day? Not really. Grinding stale beans just speeds up the breakdown. Instead of releasing aroma, you release stale air trapped in lifeless beans. You end up with a bitter, hollow cup that no sugar can rescue. And here's the health angle the industry avoids. Stale coffee forms peroxides as oils oxidize. That's chemistry speak for your beans are going rancid. Drink enough, and you're not just tasting bitterness, you're swallowing compounds tied to digestive irritation and, in some studies, cell stress. The FDA doesn't require clear roast dates, so companies get away with vague codes only insiders can read. Compare that to Europe. Over there, stricter rules and consumer pressure mean many roasters print the exact roast date. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has argued again and again that U.S. food safety trails Europe's standards. Coffee freshness is another example. In America, you're left guessing. In Europe, you're told the truth. But here's the real horror. Coffee companies bank on your ignorance. They know most people don't track roast dates. They know once you drown it in cream and sugar, you might not notice, but your body notices. For seniors, stale coffee can mean bloating, nausea, and pressure swings that don't mix well with daily meds. Buy from local roasters. Look for a roast date printed on the bag, not just a Best By code. Coffee roasted within the last 2 weeks is your safest bet for flavor and for your stomach. Would you risk queasy mornings for a fake fresh label? Drop your worst stale coffee story in the comments. Bet you've smelled that papery funk at least once. Every time you pay for fresh roast that isn't fresh, you're buying a branded regret. The bag promises comfort. What you're sipping is a lie with a bitter aftertaste. And if you thought that was bad, wait until you hear about secret number 6. Because next up, the safe choice, decaf, might be laced with chemicals the industry hopes you never taste. Sliding into number 6, decaf, the drink that's not as innocent as it looks. The promise is simple: smooth, chemical-free coffee without the buzz. The reality? For most big brands, that gentle sip has been stripped with the same solvents you'd smell in a garage. Coffee break or chemistry experiment? Most people don't realize that decaf isn't just beans minus caffeine. In the US, the most common method uses methylene chloride or ethyl acetate to wash the caffeine out of green beans. Sounds harmless when the label calls it naturally derived. But let's be real, ethyl acetate is often produced from petroleum. And methylene chloride? That's the same chemical used in paint strippers. The FDA allows residue of methylene chloride up to 10 parts per million in decaf beans. They argue it's safe. Critics fire back that no exposure is truly safe. In Europe, consumer pressure has pushed many roasters toward water-based methods. In the States, companies still cling to the cheaper solvent route. And here's the kicker. Inspectors have walked into plants and found tanks literally reeking of paint thinner. Reports noted chemical steam rising from rooms where beans soaked in the solvent bath. One whistleblower described it as like walking into a nail salon at full blast. But here's the horror you don't taste until later. Older adults don't clear these residues as fast. Livers slow down, kidneys strain harder. That means even trace amounts can hang around, adding pressure to systems already working overtime. For seniors on multiple meds, that safe decaf can pile stress on digestion, blood pressure, and sleep. That smooth sip may come with solvent fumes. Picture it, rows of green beans tumbling in giant tanks drenched in chemical soup. Steam curls upward, carrying a sting that burns the back of your nose. Then the beans are dried, roasted, and sold under labels like gentle, soothing, or natural. The branding says bedtime comfort. The process says industrial scrub. And here's the part they don't print on the bag. Some solvent traces survive the roast. Sure, it's a fraction of a fraction, but would you pour yourself a morning cup knowing it's been bathed in paint thinner? But here's the real shocker. The industry doesn't even have to tell you which method was used. Unless a bag specifically says Swiss water process or CO2 process, you're left guessing. Transparency? Forget it. You're drinking blind. So what's the fix? Stick with Swiss water process decaf. It uses water and carbon filters, no solvents. Or choose CO2 treated beans. Pressurized carbon dioxide pulls caffeine out cleanly. Both methods cost more, but they spare you the chemical aftertaste and the health gamble. If the bag doesn't brag about using one of these, assume it's solvent stripped. Would you pay extra to skip a dose of paint thinner? Or is cheap decaf worth the risk? Drop your thoughts below. This one sparks debate every time. And remember, your body knows the difference. For seniors especially, the safe choice isn't just about flavor. It's about easing the load on organs that already have enough to manage. Decaf markets itself as the safe haven. In reality, it's the wild card. That calm cup at night may be the most chemical-soaked sip of your day. Why gamble with your health and wallet when the truth is right here? Hit subscribe, and if you're watching on your TV, grab your remote and click it now so you never miss these exposés. Landing at number 5, the mold problem the industry doesn't want you sniffing out. Coffee ads push images of pure, energizing beans. The truth? Many of those beans carry a hidden hitchhiker. Mold toxins. Morning kick or kidney hit? Let's break it down. Mold loves damp storage. Coffee beans often sit for months in humid warehouses or shipping containers before roasting. That's prime real estate for fungi to grow. The scary part is what they leave behind. Mycotoxins like ochratoxin A. Studies have shown that between 45% and 55% of tested coffee beans worldwide contain traces of mold toxins. And while the European Union enforces strict limits, the US does not. That means beans considered unfit in Europe can still be sold here without a problem. That earthy note might be mold. Crack open a bag, and sometimes the warning signs are right under your nose. Instead of a rich, nutty smell, you get a musty basement odor. Some beans even show a powdery white bloom clinging to their surface. That isn't rustic character, that's mold residue. Now picture those beans ground into your morning cup. The toxins don't roast away, they survive, and they travel straight into your bloodstream. Whistleblower reports have revealed that moldy shipments don't always get trashed. Instead, they're rebagged, blended with cleaner stock, and sold to consumers anyway. One exporter admitted, if you rejected every moldy lot, you'd have no product to ship. You won't believe what's lurking inside. For most healthy adults, a few micrograms might slip by unnoticed. But seniors are different. Mold toxins stress the kidneys, the very organs already working harder with age. For someone on blood pressure meds or heart medication, that's an extra strain they don't need. And here's where the double standard burns. Europe banned or restricted multiple mycotoxins years ago. The FDA here? Their stance is softer. Think about it. You're told you're buying a clean, energizing drink. In reality, you could be sipping contaminants considered unsafe overseas. But what does mold coffee actually taste like? Bitter, flat, and earthy in the wrong way. Instead of the warm kick you expect, you get a cup that feels heavy and leaves you with mild nausea. Drink enough of it and you might notice bloating or stomach cramps. Your body knows something is off, even if the label doesn't admit it. That's just the first course. Don't panic, there are ways to dodge the mold trap. Buy beans labeled as mold tested. Several reputable roasters now certify their beans have been screened for mycotoxins. Another option is to stick to smaller, trusted roasters with faster turnover. Beans that don't sit in storage as long are less likely to grow mold. And here's a simple at-home check. If a bag smells damp or stale, trust your nose. Coffee should never smell like a damp towel or wet cardboard. Toss it. Your kidneys will thank you. Would you risk kidney strain for a bitter cup that Europe wouldn't even sell? Name and shame in the comments. Seniors are told to watch salt, sugar, and fat. But who's warning them about mold in their morning cup? Certainly not the companies profiting off stale, contaminated beans. And if that wasn't gross, wait until you hear about what instant coffee really is. Because number 4 will make you rethink the easy option forever. And you're done. But watch what happens the second the water hits that dusty pile. It clumps. It foams. A sweet, fake smell rises like chemical steam from a factory floor. Pure coffee or powdered cocktail? Here's the setup the industry loves. Instant is sold as simple, honest, and efficient. No grinder, no brewer, no mess. Just 100% coffee. But the reality in more than a few brands is a quiet swap. Coffee content trimmed, fillers added. Some instant lines cut actual coffee by up to 30%, padding the jar with maltodextrin, caramel color, chicory powder, solids, and whatever else looks brown and dissolves fast. If that sounds like a pantry cleanout, it's because it is. That cup's shortcut may shortchange your health. Maltodextrin is cheap and bland, but it hits blood sugar fast, faster than table sugar in some tests. For older drinkers with diabetes or pre-diabetes, that's a glucose spike hiding in a coffee serving. Caramel color? It makes weak coffee look rich, while adding compounds you didn't ask for. Chicory stretches volume and masks stale notes, but it can aggravate sensitive stomachs. Add anti-caking agents and stabilizers, and your morning mug starts to read like a snack bar label. Tastes like coffee, acts like candy. Now for what you can see and smell. Tap the lid, and a brown cloud floats up like a chalk eraser in school. Pour water, and the surface forms a thin skin. The aroma is oddly sweet, a bit burnt, with a faint plastic note. That isn't the deep, oily bloom of real grounds. It's a costume. Workers have noticed too. On staff forums, ex-line operators joked they were making brown dust plus mystery mix. Another shift lead wrote that a batch was fixed with syrup to pass the color test before shipping. That's the betrayal. 100% coffee on the front, math games on the back. When inspectors look, they focus on safety and labeling rules. If the small print says with chicory or with added ingredients, it can still skate by. Consumers see a coffee jar and assume coffee. Cheap blends sometimes include spray-dried coffee solids that were brewed from low-grade beans, boiled harsh, then dehydrated at high heat. What's left is bitter and flat, so companies smooth it with sweeteners, flavors, or colorants. You're drinking the photocopy of coffee and then paying extra for the ink. Let's tie this to real bodies, not just barcodes. Seniors on blood pressure meds don't need surprise carbs, jacking heart rate, or pushing weight up over time. Sodium stabilizers in some mixes add one more nudge to water retention. Sensitive guts notice the difference too. Maltodextrin can cause bloating, and very hot, harsh extractions used before dehydration create compounds that irritate the stomach lining. If you've ever felt queasy, wired, and weirdly hungry after an instant cup, you're not alone. Convenience that raids your pantry and your pancreas. And yes, this is another area where Europe often looks safer. EU rules push tighter definitions for coffee versus coffee products, and watchdogs there have called out misleading labels more aggressively. In the US, enforcement is patchier. You'll see the FDA step in for contamination or undeclared allergens, but coffee with extras can stay on shelves if the label covers it, somewhere in the fine print. Here are 2 simple things to do. First, brew basic black, a $15 pour-over cone, a kettle, and a bag of single-ingredient beans get you honest flavor with no fillers. Grind medium, water just off boil, and you're done in 3 minutes. And if you insist on instant, buy single-ingredient freeze-dried. Look for jars that list one thing: coffee. Freeze-drying keeps more aroma and body than spray-drying and needs fewer add-ons to taste decent. If the ingredient list reads like dessert, skip it. Want a quick label check? Count ingredients. If it's more than coffee, you're not drinking coffee. You're drinking a blend disguised as coffee. Also, watch for sticky powder on the rim, clumping that forms gummy marbles, or a candy-sweet smell. Those clues scream, "Help, I'm padded." What's the laziest instant you've ever tried, and did it taste like coffee or hot brown sugar water? Name and shame. Your call-outs help others. Instant is supposed to save time, not your manufacturer's budget. Now let's heat things, literally. The upcoming secret is hiding in your brewing, and the temperature number on your kettle might be the one that matters most. Number 3 is hiding in plain sight, your brew temperature. The box says perfect extraction. The glossy brochure shows smiling people holding steaming mugs. But in kitchens across the country, those same machines are running too hot. What should be a smooth pour turns into bitter sludge, bubbling like tar. Warm energy or chemical overload? Coffee makers are sold with claims of precision, engineered to exact standards, brewed at the golden range. Yet when technicians pop the lid, they find scale-coated boilers and heating elements blasting water past 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Above that line, something changes. Instead of releasing delicate notes, the beans bleed out harsh oils and acidic compounds. Temperatures above 200 degrees Fahrenheit also pump out more acrylamide, a chemical the FDA admits is tied to cancer risk in lab studies. One European Food Safety Authority review found acrylamide levels consistently higher in over-roasted and overheated brews. Europe even set benchmarks. In the US, we shrug and sip. Now let's talk health. Seniors already juggling meds for blood pressure, kidneys, or digestion feel the hit the hardest. Over-extracted oils add gut irritation. The acid spikes heartburn. Acrylamide may not drop you in one cup, but years of daily scorchers pile up. If you've ever felt your stomach flip or your chest tighten after extra hot coffee, that's not imagination, it's chemistry. That extra hot cup may burn more than your tongue. Repair techs know the truth. One posted that half the countertop unit's heat checks run hot enough to boil tea, not brew coffee. Another said the boilers inside were so caked in mineral scale they run hotter just to push water through. Translation: your morning drip is a chemical stew because the machine can't manage its own guts. For perspective, let's do numbers. Experts say brew between 195 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Go above 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're not just pulling caffeine, you're pulling bitter chlorogenic acids and oily residues. One test showed acrylamide rising by 30% when brewing past 205 degrees Fahrenheit. Think of it as a line you don't want to cross. Have you ever had coffee so bitter you thought it was brewed straight from an ashtray? Drop your story. We've all met that cup. So what's the fix? Two easy ones. First, buy a thermometer. Heat water to 195 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, then brew pour over or French press. It takes 1 extra minute and you'll taste the difference. Second, if you're sticking with a machine, look for models certified by the Specialty Coffee Association. They test for consistent temps, not just flashy lights. And here's a tip no one tells you: clean your brewer. Mineral scale tricks the system into overheating. A simple descaling flush every month can stop that. Think of it as unclogging an artery before it bursts. Perfect extraction or perfect storm. Let's tie this back to trust. The brand promises precision brewing. The glossy box shows perfection, but the machine on your counter? It might be cooking beans into carcinogens. That's not golden cup standard, that's corporate corner cutting. And for seniors, that's worse than a bitter taste. It's stomach lining scraped raw, meds working overtime, and kidneys strained by toxins you never asked for. Your morning comfort becomes another stress point in a body that deserves better. Coffee should lift you, not load you with hidden risks. If your brewer is running hot, you're not drinking energy, you're swallowing chemistry. Your morning comfort in a body that deserves better. Coffee should lift you, not load you with hidden risks. If your brewer is running hot, you're not drinking energy, you're swallowing chemistry. If heat is a hazard, labels aren't much better. Next one cracks them wide open, and you'll see just how much of that organic claim you can actually trust. Runner-up secret at number 2, labels that lie. Coffee shelves are plastered with stamps: fair trade, organic, sustainably sourced. They look safe, even noble, but pull back the glossy packaging, and you'll find many of those promises collapse like wet cardboard. Fair trade or just fair talk? Here's the betrayal. Fair trade should mean farmers get paid fairly and no one is exploited. Organic should mean no synthetic pesticides, but the audit system is weak. A 2019 global investigation found as many as 40% of beans labeled organic or fair trade were mislabeled somewhere in the supply chain. That means your ethical latte might come from the same chemically treated lot as the bargain bin beans. And the horror isn't just ethical, it's chemical. Picture this: burlap sacks stamped certified organic, stacked right next to bags sprayed with fungicides. The same dusty warehouse, the same rats skittering along the beams, the same hands scooping beans into bulk bins. The label is just ink. The beans are identical. NGO whistleblowers have published reports of farms literally faking paperwork. Inspectors arrive, and the chemicals are hidden away. away. The day after, fields are sprayed again. One investigator wrote, "Organic claims in certain regions are little more than marketing. That organic stamp may be as fake as the ink." So, what does this mean for your health? For seniors, it's not just a broken promise, it's a risk. Those organic beans could still carry residues of pesticides that strain the liver and kidneys. If you're already on art or blood pressure meds, your system is working hard enough. Layer in daily chemical residues, and you're forcing your body to filter toxins you thought you were avoiding. Meanwhile, you're paying more for the privilege. Fair trade, or organic, blends often cost 20 to 40% more. You're not just sipping chemicals, you're funding the lie. And here's where the US lags again. Europe enforces stricter checks. They fine importers caught mislabeling. Here, weak oversight and plenty of loopholes. Paying extra or just paying for lies. Whistleblower accounts confirm it. A former fair trade coordinator admitted, labels get slapped on at shipping hubs with almost no verification. Translation, once beans leave the farm, truth gets lost in transit. So, what's the fix? Don't fall for generic stamps. If you want real accountability, look for certifications with teeth. Smithsonian Bird. Friendly Coffee, for example, requires strict ecological and chemical checks. Or stick with roasters that publish their sourcing directly. Small batch shops often post photos of farms and paperwork because their business depends on trust. Another easy tip, check roast dates and supplier transparency. If the bag only screams organic but it won't tell you when or where it was roasted, that's a red flag. Have you ever bought a premium bag that tasted just as flat or worse than cheap coffee? Tell us which brand fooled you. Those labels aren't a shield, they're a sales pitch. The stamp that's supposed to protect you could be nothing more than a rubber stamp over chemical beans. Secret number 1 isn't just about fake labels. It's about actual pesticides that would never make it past US law if they were sprayed here. Claiming the #1 spot, we've got pesticide residues, the poison hiding in plain sight of your morning mug. You're promised clean, rich beans. What you get can be a chemical cocktail, coffee boost, or chemical cocktail. Importers and brands love to say their beans are pure and carefully sourced, yet federal screens keep catching the truth at the border. FDA import testing has flagged multiple coffee shipments with residues above legal limits, including chlorpyrifos, banned from food uses in the US, and glyphosate, which many countries restrict far more tightly. The labels say clean. The lab slips say otherwise. You won't believe what's lurking inside. Picture pallets cracking open in a port warehouse. The burlap sacks breathe out a sharp synthetic smell. Not roasty, not nutty, chemical. A broker tears a corner, pours a handful. The beans look slick, almost polished, and they don't smell like coffee. They smell like a hardware aisle. Brew them, and you get a cup with a bitter chemical tang that hangs in your throat. That's not terroir, that's treatment. A port inspector put it bluntly. Some lots smell like the field was sprayed the day before harvest. Another importer messaged on a trade forum, if it tests hot, someone will blend it down and try again. Translation, residues aren't always removed. They're diluted until they slip under the radar. This isn't rare. In a typical year, FDA bulletins note multiple import refusals for pesticide violations. Some lots are pulled from shelves after they've already shipped inland. You paid for clean. You got a recall notice if you even saw it. Now, let's talk health, because this is where it hits home, especially for older drinkers. Chlorpyrifos exposure is linked with neurological harm. Glyphosate exposure is hotly debated, but critics argue no exposure is truly safe, especially day after day. For seniors on blood pressure meds or blood thinners, your liver and kidneys already work harder to clear drugs. Add steady pesticide residues, and you push those filters to the edge. People report brain fog, jittery pressure swings, and upset stomachs after strong cups that taste oddly harsh. It's not just the caffeine. Overtreated beans can load your system with stress it didn't ask for. Would you risk brain fog for a latte? Here's how it plays out in the cup. Over time, stored chemical residues combine with oils in roasted beans. When your machine runs hot, those oils carry more than flavor into your brew. You inhale the steam first, a sharp, acrid note that burns your nose. Then the sip hits, a flattening bitterness, followed by a dry, metallic aftertaste. If your gut feels off or your chest feels tight after an amazing dark roast, consider the unglamorous answer. It might be what wrote in on the bean, not the roast profile. Insiders know the game. A quality manager once joked to me, "There's the coffee we put in the brochure, and the coffee we actually ship when deadlines scream." Another line that stuck. If the lot fails, we blend it with something that passes and pray the composite squeaks by. Your trust gets cut with the same quiet efficiency. Now, the numbers that matter. Chlorpyrifos is banned from US food uses, yet residues can still appear on imports from countries with looser rules until they're caught. FDA screens and state labs do intercept shipments, but not every bag gets tested, and not every roaster publishes results. Meanwhile, consumers pay premium prices to feel safer. safer without proof. As Robert F. Kennedy Jr. likes to say, products are often safer in Europe, where enforcement can be stricter. With coffee, EU checks and retailer policies frequently outmuscle the US on preventing dirty lots from reaching shelves. Fresh roast or foreign residue? What you can do is buy organic beans from countries with strict controls and traceable co-ops. Look for roasters who post lot numbers, farm names, and third-party lab results. Have you ever tasted a cup with a weird chemical edge, like plastic or paint? Name the brand and the roast date. Let the community know what to avoid. Your coffee shouldn't come with a cargo of farm chemicals. You've just heard the 7 secrets the coffee industry never wanted you to know. They count on you staying in the dark. Now you're not. Which secret shocked you most? Tell us in the comments. And subscribe now if you're on your TV, just tap your remote so you never get blindsided again.